going to rise up style, the man, the voice of fragrance. We are here with Black Owned Fragrance Week. So welcome to Black Owned Fragrance Week 2025. I'm excited. Faire, a Black owned fragrance brand making waves in the industry. Black Owned Fragrance Week was about celebrating the industry, is about celebrating Black experience, collaboration, and creativity in fragrance. And as soon as my man Chris jumps in, we're going to dive into today's brand spotlight with Faire. Okay, there we are. I was like, what's going on?
What's
Hey,
going
Chris, how you
on?
doing, man?
I'm great. How
I'm
about you?
doing well. I'm doing well. Thank you for joining us as part of Black Owned Fragrance Week.
Awesome. Glad to be here.
I'm here. Now, you're somebody who just personally I've wanted to talk to for a while. I think I first discovered Faire must have been 2019, 2020 as part of an olfactory sample box. So the original Faire, I think, Soul Cafe. So been a
Yep.
fan of your house since then.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
No problem. Thank you. Now, one of the things I want to ask you is reflecting on Black Owned Fragrance
hmm
Week. What are the biggest takeaways or milestones of your brand so far?
well, for my brand, the biggest takeaway is that we have company, and just seeing so many Black fragrance creators come to light, to receive attention that they have not historically had. I think that's a beautiful thing. I think that it is encouraging because these other fragrance creators are getting kind of the great opportunity to see that they're not alone. It creates more proof of concept that people actually do want to support us. There is a community. And so, I think the biggest takeaway for Savoir Faire is that it behooves us to continue to grow, to do our best to be leaders, and also learners at the same time. So I would say that is the biggest, takeaway from Black on Fragrance Week of 2025.
I like that, and also you just mentioned that aspect of the community, even outside of Black Owned Fragrance Week.
Mhm.
One of the things that I've seen just over the past few years of being in Fragcom, especially myself, really championing Black Owned fragrances, is that there is such a community. Everybody supports everybody, from
Right,
How to Get a Response to Kirk Elliott to Miss Darius to Ovation, and the list goes on and on and on.
right.
Everybody has been very diligent. I won't say good, but diligent when it comes to really big upping another. And I really love that aspect, and it really makes it warm and welcoming as not just a purchaser, but also someone who wants to highlight these brands
Right.
myself.
Yeah, I feel that the we're in a new birth of Black perfumery, just in general. I'm talking candle makers, incense makers, soap makers, et cetera, et cetera. And so I think it's still early on in the process where we get to set the tone and set the stage for camaraderie and community building, as opposed to industries that are further along, let's say the music business, where, collaboration is always secondary to capital. You know
Right.
what I'm saying? So I think we're kind of, being able to set the tone of how we can support each other, without gatekeeping and without, kind of creating a spirit of nasty competition, as opposed to uplifting competition, which is,
Right.
hey, wow, look at their packaging. I need to step my game up. You know
Right.
what I mean? Like little things like that. So I'm just excited about where it's going from here, and so far I'm happy to see everyone support each other.
Yeah. I love just from behind the scenes of some of the other perfumers I know how there's been such a great aspect of networking amongst the community as well, in order to do
Yes.
just that, like, step your game up, learning from others who maybe are a bit further along in the process. Hey, how'd you do this? What sources do you have as far as your packaging? Like, I really enjoy that aspect of really utilizing the talents and knowledge of others in order to build your brand while not taking away from someone else's.
Right. Yeah. I mean, when we say the moniker "We All We Got," there's nobody else that's coming to our aid. The larger fragrance companies, they're just looking to see who they're going to poach from. You know what I'm saying? Like if you look at the large percentage of fragrance influencers, they look like us. I remember distinctly in 2018, Nielsen did a report that African Americans spend $151 million a year on fragrances. Now, I'm not talking about soaps, I'm not talking about lotions, shampoos, or body washes. I'm talking about straight up fragrances, and that was 2018. Last year, it was 1.5 billion. So if you think about it that way, why would we be competing against each other as opposed to carving out our own market share from our own community? Anybody else would consider that foolish to not be in the marketplace.
Right.
So, there does have to be kind of like standards that are created, and I think, the Black Nose Lab and other initiatives will kind of create the standard of, I just can't put out some bullshit and expect everybody to support it and like it just because I'm a black fragrance creator. You understand
Right.
what I'm saying? So, I love the Black Perfumers directory, blackperfumers.com. There are definitely people who are taking the time to, kind of dictate and notate, all of us and arrange it for us to get acknowledgement. So I'm super appreciative of all of their initiatives. And then Glenn, what he's doing with
Right.
Black Fragrance Week and everyone that has been supportive and helpful, on that initiative alone is just, it's really a game changer.
Right. No, I agree. I love the spotlight. I was happy myself to become a part this year. But speaking of Black Owned Fragrance Week, how do you plan to keep the momentum from Black Owned Fragrance Week going throughout the rest of the year?
Well, the Nose Lab is here to stay until God tells me otherwise. So this is not just something that is for Black History Month, or it wasn't just something for Black Fragrance Week. This is the Savoir Faire headquarters, and until we lock the doors, it will always be a place where Black fragrance creators are championed and celebrated. Right now, we are just focusing on sprayables. But as we grow, we'll make room for candles, incense, soaps, etc., etc. All things that are Black fragrance.
Okay. No, I know about the Nose Lab because I follow, but let everybody else know, like, who may not be familiar, what exactly is the Nose Lab?
So the Black Nose Lab is our showroom here at the Savoir Faire headquarters, and currently, within just 1 week of opening, we have over 20 Black-owned fragrance companies that are here for people to explore. Currently, I have QR codes that I've made for everyone that takes people directly to their website, so that if you are interested in a fragrance after you try it on, you can purchase directly from those companies. My hopes are that they receive so much of an influx in business and interest and hits to their site and all of that, that it makes them want to house their products here. And that way I can kind of slowly learn how to be a retailer for other
Mm.
people. I have so many SKUs. I'm still learning how to keep up with my own inventory. So I didn't want to just jump out there and just say, all right, send me your stuff. I'm going to sell it. And exchanging revenue and income and business with entrepreneurs is super tedious and
Right.
super careful. Or
Right.
you need to be super careful. This is how people, provide for their families. So, I needed to be cautious and make sure that I took all the proper steps to be ready to do that. But for now, we're just housing all of these fragrances because that's the need that I have. I wish that there was a place in Charleston, South Carolina, or Houston, or Dallas, or Boston, or Buffalo, where my fragrances are just there. I'm not saying you got to sell it right there or be able to buy it, but the fact that you can try it and then make a decision when you go home. You know
Right.
what I'm saying? Like that's what we're, doing for other brands the same way that it's what I want for my own brand. So being a safe space for people to come, sometimes, if you had your fragrances in a barbershop, for example, a woman may not want to go alone to a barbershop to try your
Right.
fragrance. You know what I'm saying? And vice versa. A guy may not really want to go to a hair salon or a nail shop to try the fragrances. So by having a, kind of a uniform space or a safe space for people to come and try it, and try all of these other brands is a game changer. And I'm just very thankful to have the space.
Right. I think that's well, I would say it's very admirable because I think one of the biggest barriers to buying fragrances in general, especially say a black owned fragrance that doesn't have retail space, people want to know what they smell like. And people like myself would be very apt to blind buy based on,
Right,
but
right,
most people want to know what it smells like. So
right,
having that retail discovery, I think is very important to really, you know, whether or not a fragrance is good for you, and whether or not you're going to buy it.
right. And we have people here now who are exploring fragrances not only from Savoir Faire, but the other brands that are here. We're open today from 1 to 8, and it's really not difficult to, reach, and just seeing how people are responding by showing up, and they're, bringing their parents, or, they're bringing their kids, and it's just like, it's really creating like a legacy type of space,
Right.
and it's really really an honor. And my favorite thing is when someone comes in and they're just like, I knew you existed, but I had no idea there were so many other fragrance brands. um, those types of comments always let me know that this is the right thing,
Right.
and that hopefully we will all be able to be blessed, by the space and through the space, and we can normalize, the creations of Black fragrance creators.
Let me ask you, what led you into perfumery in the first place?
Um, well, I've always loved fragrances, always, always. And before there was a thing called influencers on social media, I always shared unique fragrances that I bought,
Mhm.
and wore. I would use this hashtag, "You can't smell like us." And even though it sounded like gatekeeping, it was the exact opposite. It was
Right.
just like, well, if you get this, you won't smell like everybody else. And so when I created my own fragrance company in 2017, I think I had the brand trust of people who had followed me on social media, who saw the fragrances that I posted, who saw the cocktails that I would always do, like drinks with classic or eat with classic, where, when I lived in New York, I would just go to various restaurants and lounges and share my experiences. So people had always kind of viewed me as a tastemaker who showed things on Instagram for people to like try themselves, especially in the New York area. And so, I think people trusted my taste based on the fragrances that they've been seeing me share for years.
Right. Understood. Okay. All right. So you started in 2017. How has the progression been from then to now, as far as not just the growth of your business, but the evolution of the fragrance world and the impact on savoir faire?
Well, I believe what's happening now is that some of the houses globally that used to sell fragrances for very inexpensive, especially in what they now call the Middle East, which is really just Northern Africa.
Right.
Um, you know, those fragrances, a lot of those fragrances were just novelty fragrances. They were just variations of different ouds. And as fragrance influencers started to search for things that were unique and exclusive, they started to search there because they were able to get these relatively gaudy looking bottles that had this, Arabic writing that it looked unique and
Right.
one of a kind and exclusive. And so those fragrance companies quickly learned that we could just mark it up to be what, these luxury companies are offering, and they've just repackaged it. So there were fragrances that you could buy for $15 US that now retail. It's the same company that's just repackaged, with new names or new bottles and packaging, and now it's 375. You know what I'm saying? And so it's just interesting, the perception of how price influences, what people think of fragrances or the exclusivity of it. So I find that interesting. But I would just say the growth of Fragcom in general, just the people who are now, you know, fragrance lovers and fragrance enthusiasts and fragrance reviewers and fragrance influencers, like that's amazing.
Right.
And so, that's the reason why I think the growth is immeasurable. My goal is to be able to have interns for Savoir Faire that are college students that are taking cosmetic science, programs. You know what I'm saying? Like a real industry where someone graduates from school and wants to work for Savoir Faire or any black-owned fragrance company. You know what I mean? Like that is where I think the industry grows. Just seeing like what Sister Gibbons is doing with Brown Sugar Babe, like it's oil based, sure, and so to some degree, some people may think of it as a novelty type of item, but for people who love oils, she's killing it. She's
Right.
killing it, and so when we think about the economic aspect of it, of black entrepreneurship, um, you know, I'm just thoroughly impressed and happy and proud. And then there are people who are into super niche fragrances, and they a small batch to them is 8 bottles. You know what I'm saying? So it's
Right.
just like whether it's huge or whether it's on a super micro level. I just love how much we've grown since I've started, and it is now becoming a lot more normal to meet someone who is a perfumer or a business owner of a fragrance company, because
Right.
that is a distinction,
Very
but
true.
it's still business and it's still normalizing what we do. So I'm super thankful for it all.
Right. I love the distinction. There's one thing I want to go back to, which you said earlier, which I always find amazing, is that association with price and quality, or
Yes.
how good a fragrance is. And there are times that, don't get me wrong, I think you should pay, how much something is worth. But
Yes.
I always find it amazing when there are some fragrances I wear that literally I paid $10, $15 for, and there are people just like, what are you wearing? And I
Right.
was like, oh, this is like, for instance, some cheap Playboy, like when the Playboy fragrance. They're like,
Uh-huh.
wait a minute, that's what? How much did you guys pay for that? Like, that smells good, and
Right.
even, like I'm wearing Sensanto in Sage now, and
Uh-huh.
I always get people who compliment me on that, and I tell them, oh, this was only so-and-so. Like, it was only how much?
Right.
And this is where you got it from. Like, people always impressed. They expect it to be not just the uber pricey. They expect it to be this big name. And again, nothing wrong with big name designers, but they
Yeah.
expect to be some big name marked up fragrance from
Right.
also some or Macy's. And when you hear that, no, is this brand out of Atlanta, and this is how much it costs,
Yeah.
and the story behind it, like they were so impressed and so wild that backstory begets this fragrance that they are smelling on me, and it smells oh so good to them.
Right, right. Yeah, no, that's amazing, and thank you very much for wearing my fragrances and not gatekeeping and
No,
inviting people to purchase. And that's the other reason why instead of focusing so much on you know profit per se, which is
right,
necessary. I do have a family
right,
to provide for, right?
right,
But more importantly, I'm growing community. So that's why we don't just offer 50 mLs. You understand what I'm saying?
right,
That's why we offer 10 mLs or the Explore sets, even though those are hell to actually bottle myself. The 2 mLs
right.
drives me nuts. And when you have 10 fragrances, that means sometimes you have to make thousands of these little 2 mLs before you can put them online. So that's why they're out of stock right now. But I should have at least around 200 or so ready for next week. Um, what's that? Oh, those are 30. They should be on the sorry, in the
No
middle of
problem. You're still
transaction.
running a business.
They should be there. You see it? Does it say couplings? If not, all right, cool. Yeah, so just you know, being concerned about your customer, realizing that because many people unfortunately have to blind buy my fragrances at this point, I try to make my prices super affordable and approachable for people at different price points. Um, you know, I don't disregard how subjective scent is. And someone could think I'm the nicest guy, he's a good dad, I love what he's doing, and hate my fragrances. And that's okay.
Right.
So I try to kind of offer ways for people to participate and support me and Savoir Faire in a way that doesn't make make it impossible.
Right. And that's a good perspective to have. I always say to people, fragrances are subjective. Just because it smells one way on me doesn't mean it's going to smell that way on you. We're all
Yes,
different people. We have different body chemistries,
right,
and the fragrances are chemicals, and chemicals are going to react on your skin
right,
different ways. So
right.
what's good for me may not be good for you. So
Yes,
I
totally,
love the
totally.
way you approach that. I have a question from customer internet. As a perfumer and fragrance brand owner, do you find it hard to wear other fragrance brands?
No, but for full transparency, I typically wear other people's fragrances when I know I'm going to just be working all day and I'm just going home.
Mm, mm,
Um, I typically don't wear other fragrances when I'm out and about in the public, like being specifically social, just
mhm.
because I'm advertising for myself first and
Makes
foremost.
sense.
And because scent is so subjective, just because I think something smells good, I don't assume that everyone else thinks it smells good also.
Right.
There have been times, or there was one time that I was wearing, I think I was wearing Aventus. No, it was something that was way less popular. I think it was a Robert Piguet something. Uh, I forget. It was a Robert Piguet for sure.
Mm,
And I met a super wealthy former athlete who is a huge business person. And I was introduced as a fragrance brand owner, and he was impressed by what I was wearing, but it wasn't my own. And
gotcha.
so I felt like that was an opportunity that I missed. You
Right.
understand what I'm saying? And I didn't have any product on me. So, I feel like if I owned a coffee shop, I would only be caught drinking my coffee. If I owned, some other type of business, I would be advertising, for myself. So I definitely wear other fragrances when I'm just alone or I'm not going out because I love to see the quality of what people do, and how certain notes that perhaps I won't touch, how they actually perform on my skin.
That's a good way of
So
looking at it.
what's that?
That's a good way of looking at it. I like that train of thought.
Yes, and so I've been so thrilled over the last week. I've been wearing everyone that's here, and I've been super impressed by the quality and just the um, evolution of how these fragrances perform on me. And it's just it's sky's the limit as far as what we can do, and it just drives home the point that we don't really have to go outside of our community to find amazing things. And obviously, I always also want to be able to talk highly of the fragrances that are here
Right.
and direct
Makes
people
sense.
to what they're looking for. So wearing them myself is a great way for me to get familiar with the fragrances that are here.
I mean, because I always tell people, even as I just somebody who likes fragrance. I don't say I'm an influencer. If I don't love it, I'm not talking about it. I'm
Right,
not going
right,
to
right.
recommend it. It's not something I don't love. So, especially you talking about you're encouraging people to spend their dollars. I
Yes.
totally understand. Hey, it's something I need to stand behind something I need to wear and understand. And even from the lens of being a perfumer, really. take it in and see, okay, is this really worth me pushing it? So I get that
Right,
totally. So
right.
I have a question for you though. When you go out, when you're representing Savoir Faire, are there any particular fragrances from your house that you tend to gravitate to give the best example when you go out?
Um, I would say when I'm going out like date night with wifey, I will usually wear like Hella Flora and Sin Santo and Sage.
Hmm.
I'll layer those. When I'm going out alone, I will typically wear either Secret 47 and Indicativa, or previously I would do a lot of Evanescence and Beau Noir together.
Okay.
Um, I like wearing fragrances that are a bit more neutral when I'm
Hmm.
out, in public. And my wife actually likes to wear Love Suede a lot. And she layers it with, fragrances that she has at home. But I like the combination of how Teleflora Sensato may smell on me, and if she's wearing Love Suede, just as like when you walk in a room, it's sort of like, ooh, they smell good. You know what I'm saying? So that's typically what I usually wear.
Okay. All right. Curious. We have a question from the audience. Why do you think it's hard for brands to stand behind being a black-owned brand? If so, what do you think are the challenges?
I think there could be various reasons. Sometimes people feel that it denotes like some need for charity, which I don't think it does at all. I hate the term minority, just in general. And I
Right.
understand that is the nature of American culture to label us that, along with other groups. But when you look at the global um, population, we are by far not the minority at all.
Right.
And so I think the stigma of, labeling yourself a black owned business means that, according to some people, it means that, our product needs special attention or special grace, and that's not it at all. I tout it because I'm proud of it. I tout it because it isn't normalized yet. I tout it because look at us. We influence this entire world. And just if we just focus on America, hip hop is the permeating culture. And so, if the rest of the world and the rest of the country, is impressed by Atlanta for what it stands for and how, entrepreneurs are, championed and celebrated, then why not put some respect on black fragrances? You know what I'm saying? So I don't see the challenge, but I understand, how some people view it. I understand some people feel the word support um, equates to a need for charity. I don't subscribe to that at all. I think support is what you do when you like something. You know what I'm saying? Like if you like the Atlanta Hawks, you're gonna go support them when they're
Right.
playing Golden State. You understand what I'm saying? So I'm just happy to have the attention that I do receive, and I think if we normalize it, we don't do that in a lot of other industries, because we've normalized it now.
Right.
Skincare is normalized. Hair care specifically for us is normalized. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? Fragrance is not.
Right.
So we got a lot of work to do. And I think we'll always love to say that we are a black-owned company. Um, but right now I feel is necessary. Um, until it's not.
I agree with you in many respects today. We have a question from the audience. What is the biggest challenge? What was the biggest challenge to getting your brand started?
Uh, Imposter syndrome. The fact that I did not, have proper training from Grasse, France, and like I didn't go. I wasn't classically trained. You know what I'm saying? Or would
Hmm.
people actually buy something from me? Um, is this going to work? I come from music. You
Right.
understand what I'm saying? So it's just like right now, if I'm like, I make these rims, you'll be like, what is Chris doing? All right, you doing too much now, man. Like, okay, I got the fragrance thing, but rims, you know what I'm saying? So at first I was kind of like, I wonder if people are going to respond to this kind of pivot and artistic foray. And they have. So I think a lot of people, feel that they may not be classically trained. They may have imposter syndrome and think no one's going to buy from me. So I think getting out your own way is a huge challenge that a lot of people um, have. But I'm hoping that the history of sharing my ups and downs will be helpful for people. I kind of have an open door policy here, especially during showroom hours, of course.
Hmm.
So if there are any beginning perfumers who have questions or they just want some encouragement, hey, can you just kind of put your nose on these fragrances I'm working on? I really like this one, but I'm kind of uncertain about the other one. What's your professional opinion? I'm gonna keep it real. Like I'm a piano player that plays by ear. I can't read music, but
Right.
I can play, right? And so
Right.
when the Philharmonic hands you the sheet music, I'm not gonna be able to do it. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
But count me in and I'll jam, right? And so, I feel like there are a lot of people like that. And so, I just want to encourage people to keep going. Trial and error. Don't put out anything that they don't 100% believe in. Um, and it's kind of like how like a lot of black restaurants feel. It's just like if one place has bad customer service, then it's like, man, I'm trying to support black brands, but and so put your best foot forward. That's what I would say. Because you, unfortunately, at this time are representing us all. And we don't have the grace of being, independent examples of good or bad. Right now, it's
Hmm.
all like, clumped it together. So I would just say put your best foot forward. Make sure it's something that you love. And it doesn't have to be perfect to begin. You just got to start.
Right. I'm glad you brought that up because one of the things that I have, well, not always implicitly said, and I would say 100% of the black fragrance makers that I've interviewed, that is part of sort of their development journey, getting over that, because I don't think any of them were classically trained. A lot of them sort of taught themselves, read books, you know, just figured out what worked in
Mhm.
order to find their rhythm of how to do things, what to do, what sort of focus they wanted to have as far as their fragrances are concerned.
Right.
And that's, while again, not always implicitly stated, that was a barrier that so many of them had to really get over because unlike other fragrance designers and fragrance companies, they didn't have the infrastructure of someone to lean on, someone to get taught by, someone to work with to develop their fragrances. Everything
Right.
was done just based off of their love and their passion, not to knock those other fragrances and those companies, because everybody has their own resources. But really speaking and hearing like this trial and error, figuring it out, and just having this love of perfume that really propelled them to get it
Hmm.
to a point where they were satisfied with releasing a product to the general public and then getting over that imposter syndrome, so to speak, going forward. Like, oh, I've really made something that people like. I'm gonna keep going on with this.
Yeah, I mean it's not much different than I don't cook at all, right? So it's just
Hmm.
like I feel like there's a lot of people that may not be good cooks, right? But if they're, let's just say, someone who's never been trained as a chef, but they make the hell out of some mac and cheese, right? And they
Right.
do this unique thing with lobster and right. It's like, well, I'm not saying I'm gonna open a restaurant, but this is Al's mac and cheese. And it's this specific, gumbo mac and cheese that I
Right.
make that is unique to New Orleans, where I'm, you know what I mean? Like, I think more of us need to just embrace that angle of you may not develop a full line right away. You may have one fragrance that is just so amazing
Right.
to people.
Right.
All right, well then focus your attention on growing that,
Right.
and have that one offering as opposed to six offerings or six fragrances that are kind of works in progress that are just sitting on your desk. You
Right.
know what I'm saying? Like, put your best foot forward, focus on maybe some cool packaging for that particular fragrance. Use the revenue from that particular fragrance to pour back into your business. Um, I listen. I didn't go to business school, so maybe that was bad advice. But I'm just saying, from my perspective, focus on what's in front of you and what you can control.
Right.
And the proof of concept of people interacting with you and purchasing from you will behoove you and give you that confidence to create more.
We have another question from the audience. Are you amenable to franchising Black Nose Lab to other places or other cities?
Oh, absolutely. I just need to have partners with the right capital, and the right resources, and I'm totally open to that. Or listen, I don't own a concept. It's an idea. It's love. You know what I'm saying? Like, so if someone wanted to create their own thing, that's cool. But if they were serious about creating a Black Nose Lab in other cities, my email address, I'm easy to find, as Dion said.
Okay. All right. We have another question. IMHO, Evanescence, and Magnitude don't get enough attention. Please speak on what inspired them.
Um, those the public offering collection was based on a comment in a YouTube video, or a YouTube review that was just like, um, how does this guy want us to support a black-owned independent brand at 135, right, or whatever the price, my price point is. They were just like, how do they want us to do that? And we, off a blind buy, and so I'm like, okay, heard. So the public offering collection, um, in my opinion, were a bit more mass appealing,
Okay.
um, than the flagship Savoir Faire fragrances, and so they are literally half the price. They're $79, almost half the price. They're $79, for more, for 60 ml. And I felt like that was me saying, all right, public, I'm going to offer this at a cheaper price point. I don't offer them in 10 ml. But I'm going to, offer them at a cheaper price point for people to make a full bottle purchase. And there's the third one from the collection that I have yet to finish. Um, Again, that's me. I'm at 80% of it, and I like it, but I don't love it. If that was someone's only chance at smelling something from Savoir Faire, I wouldn't be happy with it. And so
Gotcha.
that's why I haven't released Citrus Tuxedo yet, but that's the third. So the ideal public offering is literally like, in the stock market, your IPO is your first foray into a particular company.
Right.
And so I just wanted to create something that you could buy a full bottle for way less than $100 and feel like you still got a quality product. And people who love those, it stays out of stock a lot because people, buy two or three at a time. And I've been happy with the response from the public.
That's great. I hope that answered your question. Another question from the audience. How did you learn the trial and error process of mixing and blending?
You can't learn trial and error. You learn from trial and error. It's called trial and error. Let me try this, and that's not right. And so, being able to have a platform, and people who wanted to participate with the brand, always having people that I can, yo, what do you think? What do you think? What do you think? Um, it helped me realize that scent is subjective, and I'm not gonna make a banger every time. You know what I'm saying? So there are certain notes that you smell individually that you think, oh my gosh, this is beautiful. This is beautiful. That's the part that deserves the most attention, because just because some notes smell beautiful independently, the hardest part is finding which ones they blend with according to your liking. You know what I'm saying? Like, there will always be accord suggestions, right? Like, okay, well, this accord pairs well with, you know, but it's about what you want to make. You know, it's just like following a recipe, and maybe someone in your family doesn't like oregano, so you got to try it with thyme. You know what I'm saying, or with paprika or something else. So, you know, that is the part that is the toughest. Uh, that for me is the toughest aspect of the trial and error part. Wasting or investing money in uh, really quality oil or material and finding that it doesn't blend well with what you thought. And you know, when you're dealing with oud per se, that's, you know, from Vietnam or from the Philippines, at, you know, $470 for a dram. You know, it's just like you can't mess that up.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So
Right.
I would say that that is the the challenge and the learning curve. And so you may decide, well, let me get a synthetic oud to practice. You know,
Hmm.
so there's so many things. That's a whole other live, the trial and error. And also, there are incredible teachers. There's a sister here in Atlanta. Her name is November Nichols, and she has a fragrance brand of her own, but she also is a perfume instructor. And she helps people to develop their brand from, you know, inception to packaging. And she's been very helpful and instrumental in helping people get their fragrance company off the ground.
Okay. So now, we had another question related to, were there any resource, any literature that you utilized on your journey?
Um, Literature, no. But I did take a course through Pratt University,
Okay.
um, just so that I can learn some rules that I was already breaking, and
Okay.
then I could break them a little bit more intentionally.
Okay.
And there is an amazing professor named Raymond Matz, who was my instructor and professor. And it's a certificate course, and it took me through all of the different accords and, you know, all of these different notes and fragrance theory.
Hmm.
It was a couple months of a course online, and I just did that so that I had the structure and knowledge of what I was doing, tinkering. You know what I
Right.
mean? But other than that, there was no. I've always read advertising books because you know, my career was music for film and television. So I've always read like books around about how to, you know, advertising trends and things like that. Um, but nothing about the art of perfumeries, specifically.
Okay. All right. Interesting. So we have Black on Fragrance Week. You have the Nose Lab. What do you see next for Savoir Faire? Say next year to 5 years.
Um, I believe we'll reach the point of acquisition, which is something I've been thinking about, but not typically how independent brands become acquired. I am not looking to uh, sell the brand. I'm really looking for equity partners that can help
Mhm.
grow the brand. And I would prefer those to be investors and venture capitalists who look like me. So, with that distinction, I don't know if it will happen, but that is the only prerequisite that I have. As far as, you know, other fragrances, I'm definitely, you know, the Black Nose Lab will have its own brand. Right now, we are starting with home fragrances. So I've developed three candles and three room sprays or home fragrances that will be available for purchase only here exclusively at the Black Nose Lab. I have another brand that I'm formulating called Crown and Classic, and that is more of an everyday goods type of brand. And so I will have fragrances under $100, under $85 actually, through Crown and Classic, and those will, for the first time, I will kind of be creating fragrances specifically for women and for men
Okay.
distinctively. And other than that, just want to get into soaps, shower gels, more daily use products.
Okay. You talk about that brand extension, and you reminded me of something. How did that the Savoir Fair? How did you expand into say clothing and other offerings you offered over the years?
Just being intentional about the quality of what I was putting out. I've always had ideas like, yo, I should make a shirt that says, we think about that all the time. I'm sure if you're somewhere and someone in your group chat or you're with friends and someone says something funny and it's like, yo, you should put that on a shirt. But how many of
Right.
us actually do it, right? And so I just felt like, the crown was super recognizable after the H&M debacle. And so, the crown hoodies that I'd already offered kind of just lent themselves to expanding into other things since people seem to like wearing the crown.
Right. Okay. Interesting. We got one. It's probably be one of the last questions from the audience. I know we got a little bit more time. CenterNet asks, if I was a first-time shopper with Savoir Faire, what would be the best way to experience your brand, and what is your number one fragrance?
Number one fragrance is Soul Cafe. Um, I would say there are trios. Uh, with the trio, you can pick three 10 ml fragrances of your choice. And this is $69. And so you can start with this. I don't have the Discovery set, which are five 2 ml fragrances, and we only have those in about six fragrances, just because, like I said, it's super tedious to create. So I would say, and that is around $20 or so. So I would say those are the easiest ways to delve into the house. But if you only wanted to purchase one, I would say Soul Cafe seems to be the most popular and probably the safest bet of a blind buy because I don't know where you are on your fragrance journey. So I would say that's the safest bet. It's like a singer who has a hit single and everything else you kind of have to take your time and go through. I would say Soul Cafe is the hit single.
Okay, and I will let everybody know because I know some people, especially in fragrance, are like, "Oh, I don't want to get a 10 ml." Like everybody wants a bigger bottle. Let me tell you,
Right.
Savoir Faire fragrances are potent. A little bit goes a long way. My experience with Soul Cafe and then Ascension, and I have to get another bottle of Ascension because somebody decided to unscrew the top.
Gotcha.
So you can
Gotcha.
imagine what happened. I was upset. I love that fragrance, and then Sensato and Sage, a little bit goes a long way. So if you
Yes.
if you purchase that 10 ml, that will last you a very long time, even if
Yes.
you use it singularly. But if you have a rotation, that'll last you for quite a while. It is a
Right.
very potent fragrance.
Right. Right. And there's some business coaches that I just know personally who have always
Hmm.
said that it's just like, bro, you either gotta raise your prices or like, you gotta make not water them down, but like, hey, this is, high oil concentration. I'm at 27, 28% on most of
Right.
them. And so they do last a long time, not only on you, but on your dresser or in your collection. So but for me, I'd rather give you a quality product because that's what's important to me. My reputation and what people think of me and the brand. And so I'd rather you have something that you felt like you got an incredible value than feel like you spent money on something that missed the mark.
I agree, and as a consumer, I appreciate that. One of the things I always say to people, I understand people got to make money,
Yeah.
but it's about. I think one of the things that is lost now in basic commerce is that a lot of companies try to, not saying perfume in general, but they try to give you the cheapest product possible
Yeah.
while charging as much as possible. And one
Yeah.
of the things I feel like we've lost in general is paying for a quality product.
Right.
And one of the things I know with Savoir Faire and a lot of other black fragrance brands I have personally purchased from, I have gotten a quality product at a very reasonable
Right.
price.
Right.
And I appreciate that. I have not gotten something that is, um, cheap, watered down, like, oh, I paid $80 or $60, however it is. I got a fragrance that I really enjoy that is
Right.
well worth what I've purchased. And I have no issues recommending it to other people. And
Hmm.
that's one of the things I really enjoy about the fragrance community, but the black fragrance community in general, because I see just all this quality all around.
Right. Yeah. Now everyone is putting out great juice, and our packaging is improving all the way around. And so I feel like these unstated standards are, kind of forming, and I love that because then, who am I to tell somebody what they need to do? I could just share from my experience. Hey, this helped me. So I'm happy that some of those standards are kind of forming themselves.
Right, exactly. And one last question before I let you go, because I know it's busy there. What is one thing you like the audience to remember about your brand or the Black Owned Fragrance Week mission as we close out this event?
It's super intentional. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is a really new community, um, collectively.
Hmm.
As far as Black fragrance creators and Black fragrance influencers and reviewers, it is a new market that needs to be celebrated. And when you find houses that you love, please just continue to, support them. The only thing that I ask that people remember about Savoir Faire is that I make the fragrances myself. I'm, and no disrespect to any other fragrance company owners, but you, it's not a product that you're just like, shipping, and you're not even interacting with it. You know what I'm saying? So I
Right.
just ask that people remember that, um, and just know that I care about what I'm making.
Hmm.
I pray over what I'm making, and it is made with intentionality for you to attract the things that you want in life, whether it's another person, whether it's a certain lifestyle. All of it is made with specific intentionality for you to attract what you want and need.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you for your time, man. I greatly appreciate it. And to all you guys out there who watched us for the past hour or so, I hope you just got a lot of good nuggets and a better understanding of the Savoir Faire House. Thank you for tuning into this Black Brand Spotlight on Savoir Faire during Black on Fragrance Week 2025. Stay tuned for more exciting events this week, or at least the rest of the day since it's the last day. And make sure you visit blackonfragranceweek.com for a full schedule, and also check out the replays of those that you've missed as well, and a list of brands offering exclusive discounts. Don't miss out on the rest of today and also what you've missed this week.
For
As
sure.
well as Style the Man, the voice of fragrance. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your listening ear. Remember, stay safe out there. Be blessed. Thank you, Chris. Appreciate
Peace,
it, man.
peace. Thank you,
Take
bro.
care.
Yeah.